Trucking right along in a three-part video series. We're going to be talking about how to make your YouTube channel art in today's video.
Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Dale.
And I'm Walt.
And this is Live Streaming Tech. And if you want to learn more about live streaming online, places like YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, and beyond, make sure
you click that subscribe button and turn that little bell notification on so you don't miss a single important video.
Hey, so this is the second part in a three-part series today, man. What are we going to be talking about?
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the channel art, or as some of you know it as the YouTube channel banner. Whatever you like to call it, Dale's going to have a free template that you can follow along. You can download for free, or you don't have to follow along. You just download the template and you can bounce. But we prefer you stay to the end of the video. So.
Yeah, and as well, keep in mind that we already did the profile picture. So if you haven't done that, make sure that you go backtrack on that. Well, without any further ado, screen wipe to the right. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put together some YouTube channel art. We're going to be using GIMP. It's a free open source software. You can get over gimp.org/downloads. I've already got a template set up, and we're going to load you up at the very end of the video, as well as a free image resources guide. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the template. Because now we have this template open, you're going to find that there's different areas that we're going to want to make sure we honor. People are going to access your YouTube channel from various places. Some of them from their TV. Believe it or not, there's more and more people watching YouTube on TV now more than ever. Then you have here in the middle, it's at 2560 by 420. This is actually for your desktop views. Then if you go a little bit smaller here, 1855 by 420, that is a tablet view. Someone who's looking on the tablet is going to see this. And of course, the smallest one is going to be 1552 by 420. That is going to be the mobile view. Now I have each one of these areas listed right inside the actual folder here for views, so that way you know exactly what you're going to get. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and click and drag some of our images onto the work surface. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this one. Again, this is just an example channel, so we're going to drag and drop that on into the surface. All right, let's get the move tool, and we're going to move me around. Now remember, we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on where the mobile is going to be at, because if we try to get everything over here, when somebody gets on mobile, they won't be able to see that wacky face that I'm doing here. So we're going to go ahead and put it right about here. Gonna have just a little bit of fun with this. And let's go ahead and drag and drop another image here. I'm going to go ahead and put him on in here that way. He looks a little bit larger, so let's go ahead and let's make him smaller. And I used the scale tool right over here. It looks about the right size. Excellent. We're going to hit scale. Now, I'm going to do something, and I know that his print's going to be backwards, but not many people are going to see it except for when they go over on the actual TV view. So we're going to go ahead and flip it. Let's move it right over here. We're going to get it on the edge. All right, we're going to have just a little bit more fun with this. Now let's get a background on this puppy here. Again, you're going to be able to get some free image resources at the very end of this video. I'm going to click and drag it onto the surface. All right, now I want to go ahead and resize this. We're going to hit the scale tool. Now you'll notice at the very top of your GIMP window, it says 2560 by 1440. That's the size of your canvas when you're getting it all set. So I'm going to go ahead and try it at the largest size of 2560 on the scale. Okay, 1440, so this is perfect. This is going to fit in nicely. Actually, we're going to go ahead and we can eyeball this. Let's just get the move tool. We're going to move it right into place. There we go. Now let's move it on down. And if we move it down enough, we'll start to kind of see what are all the areas that we need to fill in. So this is looking pretty good so far. So I'm going to leave this here because eventually we'll shut off all of these layers to where we can kind of see this. Now, something just for the fun of it. I'm just going to kind of randomly do something here. We're going to go ahead and duplicate the desktop layer. I'm going to move it on up to where we can get it right below our heads here. I'm going to right click on it, alpha to selection, and let's fill it with foreground color. Now, if you're on Mac and I say control, you're going to use your command. Those of you that are using PC along with me, you're going to press control and the comma to fill it with foreground color. If your background color, you do control period, and it'll fill it that way. But I think I kind of like white. We're going to go ahead and do it like this. Control-Shift-A will deselect that. Now let's go ahead. We're going to just fade a little bit of this opacity. So I'm just going to kind of shut off these different layers here. And we're going to fade the opacity. Here we go. Dropping it down so you can kind of see it starts to fill out just a little bit. I'm liking it so far. Alrighty, now I'm going to go ahead and let's play around with it. What we're going to do is I'm going to take the lettering we typically put for our channel right in here. So we'll say, okay, I'm going to highlight this by pressing Control-A, go to Tool Options, and hit Dynamic. It's a little too large, obviously, so we're going to want to make sure that we just shrink it down just a little bit. And we're going to bring it down just a little bit. There we go. That might be just plenty right there. We're going to right-click Live Streaming Tech, Alpha to Selection. We're going to grow our selection, and this is going to kind of take a little bit of work. We're going to hit, let's try 4 pixels first. Not bad. That might be a little too much. Might not be what I'm looking for, but let's test it out. I'm going to select the next layer below it, transparent layer, hit OK. We're going to hit Control and period to fill it with background color. This actually looks pretty good. Control-Shift-A will deselect it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate that layer. We're going to select the bottom layer, shut off the top ones, get the Move tool, and I'm just going to click it ever so gently. If we just scroll out here, you'll notice it takes up the entire frame here. I'm going to move it over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to move it down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not bad. We're going to turn it on, turn it on. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the move might have been just a little too much. I'm not angry at it, but I'm thinking if we just tap it up and over, it looks just a little bit better. There we go. I'm going to duplicate that layer again. We're going to grab that bottom layer. We're going to go into Filters, hit Blur, Gaussian Blur. 15 seems like a good blur to it. We're going to hit OK. Excellent. See how this is popping up off the white background? So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer again. We're going to merge it down by right-clicking and pressing Merge Down. Let's duplicate it one more time. See how that looks. Ooh, there we go. Now it's really starting to pop out. Right-click, Merge Down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down Shadow, and I just double-clicked on that to rename it. And I'm going to put Hard Shadow. And I'm going to double click the layer above this and I'm going to put outline. By me labeling these things, I'll know exactly what I'm using at all times. Okay, so let's go ahead. When you do your channel art, it's important that you first of all say what your channel is and what is your channel about. So for me, my credo is going to be something very much like learn how to live stream online. For something like you, if you're doing a gaming channel, it could be something like learn how to do Fortnite like a pro, or follow one of the best Fortnite players ever, or insert any of your favorite games in here. If you're a podcaster, it could be the podcast all about networking. Whatever it could be that your YouTube channel is going to be about, make sure you tell people what to expect. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight, drag it down here, and what we're going to do is put down my mission statement. I'm going to highlight it by pressing Control-A, go to Tool Options, hit the drop down, go Dynamic. It's a little too large. I want to kind of fit right below the name of my channel. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag around this text. I'm going to kind of frame it out just a little bit. Grabbing the tabs, bring it on in just to where you like it. That looks pretty good to me so far. And now I'm going to just select the layer below it. We're going to get a transparent layer and hit OK. Now, that's not quite where I wanted it. There we go. That's much better. Control, period, will fill it with the background color. Now, let's grow the selection. Select, grow, and let's try 8. Let's see how that looks. Not bad, not bad. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the layer below it. We're going to hit transparent layer and hit OK. I don't know if I'm entirely happy with how this looks, so I'm going to go ahead and select that layer again. We're going to right-click, Alpha to Selection. I'm going to grow it just a little bit, not so much. We're going to go ahead, grow, hit 4. Ah, there we go. Let's go back to that blank layer, Control, and the comma will fill it with the foreground color. Now let's merge those two layers together. merge down. And you know what, let's merge the letters down to it as well. We're going to right click on it, alpha to selection. Remember how we did that little outline on the other one? We're going to do the same thing here. Transparent layer, OK. Control period, we'll fill it with black. Control Shift A will deselect. Let's shut off this layer for just a moment. Grab the move tool, and let's move it right about the same amount. I just clicked on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how this looks. Turn on that layer, and boom. Yeah, it kind of matches up. Not bad at all. I'm going to duplicate that layer, get the layer right at the bottom, hit Filters, Repeat Gaussian Blur. All right, let's duplicate that layer, merge down. Let's duplicate it one more time, because I remember we did it right about 4 times. Not bad. Okay, so everything's really starting to come together. I'm not going to go too fancy on this, but what can the viewers expect from you? Are you going to be releasing regular content? Is it going to come out every Tuesday? Is it going to come out every Friday? This is kind of a good place to tell people. And I'll just make it just a little bit smaller. So if anything, we're going to go ahead and grab the font, and we're going to put it right down here, and I'll put new videos every Monday. Control Shift A. We're going to probably make this about size 30 font. We're going to go into Tool Options, Dynamic. Excellent. I'm going to use my control wheel and the control key, and I'm just going to kind of come in here. All right. Very cool. So here's what I'm going to do with this one. We're going to keep it super simple. I'm going to select all of this, and let's go ahead and just make it black. Excellent. Now, I'm just going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to shut off the top layer. We'll select all of this, and let's just make it white. Why not? Let's go buck wild. We're going to grab the Move tool. Just click on it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's turn back on the layer, and you can kind of see, wow, it makes it a little bit like a white shadow, but I moved it a little too far. Ah, there we go. See how that looks? That is pretty darn clean, if I don't mind saying so. Okay, so let's play around with our figures. We're going to go ahead and we're going to kick up the saturation and kick up the contrast. So I'm going to start it out with saturation. I'm over here on the layer with Walt. And saturation, typically I found about 20 works out really well. It's going to depend on the quality of your photo. These ones were done by iPhone, by the way. We're going to hit OK. I'm going to go over, I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to grab filters, repeat hue and saturation. So it does the same exact thing. We're going to go to colors again, brightness and contrast. Let's kick it up by about 10 points. There we go. I hit OK. Rinse and repeat. Filters, brightness and contrast. Good. Now we're going to right click, alpha to selection. I'm going to go the layer right below us. We're going to put a transparent layer. I'm going to say OK. Let's grow it. I'm going to go to, let's say, 16 pixels. Ah, there we go. Not too bad. Might be a little too big. So let's go ahead. We're going to hit undo. Select, grow. Let's try 10. Yeah, there we go. That's much better because the other way seemed to kind of cover up the lettering, and that means I'd have to move them. I'm going to control, comma, to fill it with white. We're going to hit me, right click, alpha to selection. We're going to grow it the same amount by hitting select, grow, 10, OK. Go back down to that layer, press control, comma. Now if you notice, we shut us off. It's all one layer now, control shift A. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so I'm going to right click on that layer. We're going to hit alpha to selection on that. Transparent layer, hit OK. We're going to move that transparent layer down below it, and I'm going to fill it with black. We're going to hit control, period. Control Shift A will deselect. Now, we've got this layer. If we were to shut off these two, you can see the black background. We're going to go ahead and do filter, Gaussian blur, and I'm only doing this as an example. You can always just leave your layers on if you wish. Do 15, this looks good. This is just going to get it to where we pop up off the page. Boom, boom, boom. Not too bad. I'm going to add another one so we really gives ourselves some depth. Right click, merge down. So I merged those shadows together. Let's do it again. Hey, there we go. Now that is more like it. I'm very happy with that. We're gonna merge down. Everything's kind of coming together. I want to play around with the desktop view white background just a little bit. And here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my eraser. We're going to go to Tool Options. I'm going to select the brush, and let's get the line brush here. It's the block. And we're just going to go ahead and let's make this, I don't know, let's do 25. Looks pretty good. Not angry at it. Here's a little trick. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on the proper layer. Okay, there we go. We're on that white layer. And I'm just going to select it right about here. So you'll notice it kind of just stamped it right here. So let's go ahead and we're going to hit scroll out. And if we were to go straight over, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. And I'm going to hit Shift, and then I'm going to left click it. It looks like it's a little bit crooked. So I'm going to hit Undo. Let's try it again. We hit Control Z to undo it. Let's try it like this. Ah, that's better. Probably slightly crooked, but I'm not angry. Gonna do the same thing here. Coming all the way over, press and hold Shift. And then we're just gonna left click. Not bad. All right, we're gonna do one more thing. This is a little bit of something we can do. When you go to Free Image Resources Guide, you're going to find a number of websites that's going to give you some free images. Look for textures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my free image resource. I'm going to grab a textured type image. I'm going to play around with this a little bit. Okay, so now that I got my image, I'm going to hit Control N. And it doesn't matter the size. We're just going to go ahead, OK. I'm going to drag and drop my image. Okay, this textured image here, what we're going to want to do is, let's remove the background. And then we're going to hit Image, Fit Canvas to Layers. I'm now going to go ahead and take my image and make it completely grayscale, or black and white if you will. So we're going to hit Colors, Desaturate, Desaturate, hit OK. Now we're set. We're going to kick up the contrast a little bit, maybe some of the brightness, so we can make it to where there's a little bit more white and a little less black. We're going to be using this as a mask. And masks are really nice to actually add textures to some different patterns, if you will. So we're just going to keep kicking this up. That looks pretty good. I like that. We could play around with this till the cows come home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to come back over to my image, right click on this layer. We're going to hit Add Layer Mask. Leave it white full opacity. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to hit Control V to paste my mask on top of it. Now you'll notice that it didn't quite fit all the way. We're going to go ahead and grab the Scale tool, and we're going to scale it out. Nice thing is we can just dial it in by hitting 25, 60 to fit the entire frame. We hit Scale. Great, now that's done, we're going to get the Move tool, and we're just going to move it into place. That looks pretty darn good. So you see, it added a little bit of that texture, that raspiness. Pretty nice. I'm pretty happy about this. So what we're going to do is anchor that down. Now, in the event that you don't like the mask, you can always just right click on it and just disable layer mask. You want to re-enable it? Just go over and just re-enable it. That simple. I feel like it just needs a little something more. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to apply layer mask. Might as well. We're going to apply layer mask. And I'm going to right click on this. Alpha to selection. Let's put in a blank layer below it. All right. I'm going to hit Control period to fill it with black background, Control Shift A to get rid of it. So made it a little deeper, but I don't really want it that much. So what we're going to do is we're going to blur it just a little bit. When I mean a little bit, we're going to do a lot of it. Let's try 50. There we go. It just adds just a little bit more taste to it. I actually went to 150. That might be a bit much. Let's try 50. Here we go. There we go. That's more like what I'm thinking. We're going to hit OK. Now in the event I found this is too dark, I can always just lighten it up just a little bit. You'll notice it just lightens up. So that's really good. If we want to deepen it, by the way, all we have to do is just duplicate that layer. Pretty cool, right? All right, now you want to make sure that you save your XCF file, your GIMP readable file. That way if you have to edit it later on, we're going to go File, and we're going to hit Save As. And I'm going to name my file, and make sure you keep it XCF so that way you can come back to it later on. Put it in the appropriate file, and then it's saved. Now we're going to hit Control Shift E to export it as a PNG file. PNG works or JPEG is fine. We're going to go ahead and do PNG. We're going to hit Export. You're going to want to pause the video. Make sure you have all your settings dialed in just like this. We're going to hit export when you're ready. And it is done. So this is our channel art that we're going to end up uploading, and believe it or not, there's going to be a third part in this series that we're going to tie all these things together, so make sure you're staying tuned to this channel. And if you want to get your hands on this template as well as the free image resources guide, head over to livestreamingtech.site/YouTube template. You can get your hands on that and some other great resources completely free of cost. And speaking of templates, did you take a look at how to do the YouTube profile pic? We're going to go over here to this next video if you haven't. It's really a short video, very, very awesome. You're going to be able to learn quite a few other tricks. And if you haven't had the chance to find out how to live stream over on YouTube, then you're going to want to make sure you check over this video right here. We show you some of the tips and tricks on that. So I'll see you in either one of these videos.